Hey children, a pleasant and a warm welcome to the science lecture. Today we are going to ponder and understand Unit 1, Food. The lesson is about food. Where does it come from? Got it? What is the lesson about? Food. We all consume food, right? And we are going to understand as to where is our food that we eat all coming from. Now let's go through the introduction first. Imagine a day without food. How would you feel on that day? Why do people feel weak when they have to stay without food? Why do people die of hunger? What role does food play in the lives of living organisms? We shall find answers to these questions in this chapter. You know that all living beings need food to live. Food is the source of energy and is thus required by all living organisms to survive. We need food to grow, develop, and repair our body. Food gives our body energy and nutrients that we need in order to grow, move, work, play, think and learn. So children, today's topic is really wonderful. Let's all go on a journey on food. Okay? Now, sources of food. Have you ever wondered how living organisms get food? Okay, now cows, dogs, human beings, trees and microorganisms like bacteria all need food to survive and carry out activities. Food is essential. Each living thing has a different way of deriving nutrients. Now, these are the producers, children. That is the trees, the shrubs and the herbs. Can you see the lovely trees? The shrubs, herbs, such a lot of beautiful greenery around us, isn't it? Some living things can make their own food. These are known as producers. Now these are called producers. Who are the producers here? That is the trees, the shrubs and the herbs. Alright. Some other living things derive nutrition from the other organisms. These are known as consumers. What are these known as? Consumers. Can you see the sheep and the tiger here? These are consumers. There are other living things that derive nutrients from the dead and decayed matter. These are known as decomposers or saprophytes. What are these known as? Decomposers or saprophytes. What are the examples of decomposers? They are the mushrooms and moss. So what did we see here, children? We saw the producers. Okay, got it? Then we saw the consumers. Then we saw the decomposers. All right, great. Okay. Some plants or animals live on or inside living organisms in order to get food. They also cause harm to their host. They are known as parasites. What are they known as? Parasite. See, these are ticks. This is a tick which is on the deer. So it's called a deer tick. Okay, it's a deer tick, and these are roundworms which you will find in our intestines. There are tapeworms, there are roundworms, there are ringworms. Alright, so these are parasites. What are they all called, children? Parasites. Got it? So we have the producers, we have consumers, we have decomposers, and we have parasites. So I hope all of you all understood. Now let us go in detail about the producers. Plants can make their own food. Plants make food, that is glucose, with carbon dioxide from air and water from soil in the presence of chlorophyll using solar energy. This process is called photosynthesis. What is this process called? Photosynthesis. Oxygen is a byproduct of this chemical process. The food is stored as starch in the leaves. What is food stored as? Starch in the leaves. Did you get it? So these are the producers. And how do they make what is the process that they make food in, known as? Photosynthesis. Okay. Now we are going to go to the consumers. We are going to see about the consumers. Animals cannot make their own food. They depend on plants or other animals for food. Therefore, they are called consumers. What are they called, children? Consumers. There are three kinds of consumers. Animals that eat only plants are known as herbivores. What are animals that eat only plants called? Herbivores. Then animals that eat only animals are called carnivores. Animals that eat both plants and other animals are known as omnivores. So did you find that interesting? So here we learnt about the herbivores, the carnivores and the omnivores. Okay, now let us go further. In detail, we are going to understand and seep it inside us as to what are herbivores. Okay, herbivores have well developed molars and premolars for grinding and chewing plants. Some herbivores may have many molars. Some herbivores have many molars. Herbivores like white-tailed deer and goat have tall molars with flat upper surfaces for chewing. Some herbivores like cows store semi-digested food in a part of their stomach and bring it back to the mouth to chew again. Now, can you see the examples of two herbivores? That's the elephant here and that's the deer here. Got it? So let's look at the goat and its eating, skulls of theirs. The goat and the beaver here. Let's see their molars, okay? These are the molars of the goat and these are the incisors of the goat. And here we have the beaver. These are its molars and these are its incisors. Did you understand, children? Okay, now we finished some in-depth knowledge about the herbivores. Now we are going to proceed further to learn and understand in-depth knowledge of the carnivores. Okay, carnivores have sharp and pointed teeth to tear flesh. Their canines and incisors are well developed. Carnivores need canines to kill and tear meat. Some birds have clawed, pointed toes and sharp, pointed beaks to grab and stab the flesh of their prey. Can you see this? These are carnivores. Okay, children. So this is a lion. Look at its teeth over here, and this is a fox, I guess. Okay. So this is the leopard's skull. Okay. These are the sharp canines that they have. These are the molars. These are the incisors. And these are the canines. My goodness. See how sharp they are, children. Isn't it? Okay. Now we finished with the carnivores. We are going to go further to the omnivores. Mammals like grizzly bears and human beings and birds like crows and woodpeckers are omnivores. Omnivores survive well in many environments because they eat both plants and animals. Many omnivorous animals have front teeth which help them rip into meat and bite into fruits and vegetables. Molars help them grind up meat and chew their food. Feeding habits of all living things are not the same. Different animals show characteristics which help them derive energy from the food they eat. Now this is the bear. The bear is a very large omnivore. And this is a raccoon. A raccoon is a medium omnivore. This is a crow, which is a small omnivore. Did you get it, children? Okay? Okay. Now activity 1 says complete this table. Now this is what you are going to do research on, and you are going to find out, and you are going to tell me. These are the animals, and you are going to find out what is the food that they eat. Okay, and when you find out, ask yourself, are the food habits of all living things the same? Ask yourself that question. Got it? Now let's go further. We are going to see about the decomposers. Bacteria and fungi are decomposers. Who are the decomposers? The bacteria and the fungi. They eat decaying matter such as dead plants and animals. In the process, they break them down and release nutrients and mineral salts back into the soil. These are then used by plants. Now let's see some interesting matter in this. Do you know? Okay. Mold, bacteria and some higher level organisms like beetles, centipedes and earthworms are all busy recyclers. By breaking down organic matter like dead plants, they create the valuable nutrients necessary for a rich and fertile soil. Bacteria as recyclers. Let us see how bacteria are as recyclers. We have bacteria in our digestive tract that prevent the growth of disease-causing organisms. Some animals like moose, sheep and deer have bacteria in their stomachs that help them digest plants. Bacteria help turn milk into cheese and curd, and fruits and vegetables into pickles. Other bacteria help decompose dead plants and animals. Now let's see about the earthworms as recyclers. Okay, this is also very interesting. Earthworms eat dead plants and animals. When they eat, they also take in soil and tiny pebbles. They take in nutrients from the microorganisms in the material that they ingest. Earthworms then excrete waste in the form of casts. Earthworm casts are rich in nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus and potash. In addition to breaking down organic materials and adding nutrients to the soil, earthworms also help loosen the soil and aerate the soil. This helps them to grow. Did you find that interesting? I really loved this portion. Got it? That's the bacteria as recyclers and the earthworms as recyclers. Children, I want you to surf the net and find out more. Okay, it is going to be really interesting. Make some notes also on this, okay, so that your knowledge improves. Now we go further and we are going to see plants as sources of food. Got it? Different parts of a plant, that is the different parts of a plant, are sources of food for living organisms. We eat stems, roots, leaves and flowers of different plants. We get vegetable, fruits, pulses, cereals, spices and beverages from plants. Okay. There are around 2000 plant species which are cultivated for food. Did you get it? Then let's see about the root. Have you eaten any of the vegetables shown in figures 1.13 and 1.14? Now let's see these things over here. These are the 1.13 and 1.13 and 14. Okay, we will see that further. This is the carrots here, and this is the turmeric. All right, carrots are also the root, turmeric is also the root, and here there are seeds, leaves, fruits, stems, roots and flowers. Did you see that? Such a lot of produce is available from the plants. Okay. In some plants, the roots or parts of the root system store large quantity of starch and other carbohydrates. Therefore, they function as a storage organ. Examples of plants with tuberous roots include sweet potato, carrot, cassava, turmeric and dahlia. Since they store nutrients, they are rich sources of energy. I love all root vegetables, children. If you have not tried the root vegetables, please go ahead and ask your mom to make some delicious meal out of it for you. Okay. Now from the root, we will go to the stem. Many plants store carbohydrates or fats in their stems. Potato and sugarcane are few examples of edible stem. Okay, which are the two examples of edible stems, children? Potato and sugarcane. Who doesn't love the yummy sugarcane juice? I love, gorging on some, what is that sugarcane juice? I love to eat it, chew it also. I remember when I was small, my mom used to break it into small bits and give us to eat. Okay, you must try some. Ask your mom and go and visit the sugarcane juice shop. Tell him instead of making the juice, just give me that stem. Go home and it's extremely easy to cut. Peel off the outside part and chop it into small bits and have fun eating sugarcane. I'm sure you will enjoy it. Alright, now activity 2 we have here. You will have to draw the plant and you will have to label all the parts of the plant, and I'm sure that's quite easy. Then on activity 3, collect small amounts of various spices. Spices are in ample amount in their house. Group them according to the sources or the parts of the plant from which they are obtained. Find out the uses of different spices that you collect. Now this is going to be really interesting, children. Please go ahead and do this activity. Okay, let's see what the lesson has in store for us. Further, now we finished with the root, the stem, and now we are to the seed. Seeds of the plant are good sources of food for animals, including human beings, because they contain nutrients necessary for the growth. A majority of foods consumed by human beings are seed-based. Edible seeds include cereals such as maize, wheat, and rice. Legumes such as beans, peas, and lentils, and nuts. Seeds of plants such as sunflower, mustard and sesame are often used to produce rich oils. Okay, see, these are the wonderful nuts, and you can go on and on eating nuts, but remember that you have to have nuts in small quantities. Okay, else if you just go on gorging on them, you may land up having a stomach upset. Anything, whatever you do, never do it in excess. Be it, your behavior, be it your food, okay, or be it your whatever it is, holiday or whatever it is. Nothing should be in excess. Everything should be limited. Okay. Now we finished with the seed. Let's see food for plants. Do you know why a plant stores food in its seeds? It does so for the baby plant present in the seed. When the baby plant starts growing, it uses the food stored in the seed until it can make its own food. The food is stored in seed leaves called cotyledons. Okay? The baby plant rests in the seed till it gets all the necessary conditions to start growing. The growth of a baby's plant from a seed is called germination. What is it called? Germination. A young growing plant is called a seedling. Such wonderful facts, children. Let us observe. Let us observe what the necessary conditions for germination are. These are the grains, by the way. Okay, let's go further. We are going to see what are the conditions for germination. Put some cotton wool in 4 dishes. Now you are going to take some cotton wool and place it in 4 dishes. Place 3 to 4 beans in each dish. Keep the dishes as follows. Dish A, wet the cotton, keep it moist by adding water. If it dries, and place the dish in a warm place such as the kitchen. In dish B, wet the cotton, keep it moist by adding water. If it dries, and place the dish in a cold place such as a refrigerator. Dish C, do not wet the cotton, keep the dish in a warm place. Dish D, add enough of water to cover the seeds. Keep the dish in a warm place. Discuss what you observe in the 4 dishes. What do you think is the role of the seeds and the water in germination of seeds? What is the role of the temperature? Give reasons as to why seeds do not germinate in cold. What is the role of air in seed germination? Now we are going to give explanation of all these things once you do this procedure, okay, of germination. You have to do this and you have to explain the 4 dishes. Did you get it? Very good. Now we go to the fruits. Fruits generally have seeds of a plant inside them. Many plants have evolved fruits that are attractive as food source to animals. Fruits make up a significant part of the diets of many living things. Vegetable. Vegetables are plant matter that we generally refer to as food. These include root vegetables such as radish and carrots, leaf vegetables such as spinach and lettuce, stem vegetables such as bamboo shoots and asparagus, and inflorescence of flower vegetables such as broccoli. We use some fruits such as tomato, pumpkin and eggplant as vegetables. Okay, now what is this? This is radish. This is lettuce, this is the broccoli, and this is the asparagus. Now radish, we eat the root, lettuce, we eat the leaves, broccoli, we have the flower, and asparagus, we eat the stem. Did you get it, children? Now let's go to the fiber in food. Dietary fiber is found in cereals, fruits, and vegetables. Fiber is made up of indigestible parts of plants which pass relatively unchanged through our stomach and intestines. The main role of fiber is to keep the digestive system healthy. Other terms for dietary fiber are bulk and roughage. Now let's see what is this, do you know, going to tell us. Okay, it is definitely going to be an interesting fact. Fiber is largely a carbohydrate. It is recommended that adults should consume approximately 30 grams of fiber every day. Children should eat 10 grams of fiber in a day plus an additional gram for every year of their age. For instance, a 10-year-old child should eat 15 to 20 grams of fiber per day. Disorders that can arise from low fiber diet include constipation, heart disease, some cancers, and irritable bowel syndrome. Okay, so you have to be sure that you have a large quantity of fiber. Okay, understood? Very good. Now let's go further, children. We are going to have the sources of food from animals. Animals are both direct and indirect sources of food for us. Let's see the meat. The flesh of some animals is eaten as food. Poultry, birds, fishes, goats, and sheep provide meat. Some sea creatures such as shrimps, prawns, shellfishes, and crabs are also eaten as rich sources of proteins. After meat, we have milk. Food products that we get from animals include milk, which is produced by mammals such as sheep, camels, goats, cows, and buffaloes. Milk can be drunk as it is or processed into dairy products such as cheese or butter and consumed. Milk is a rich source of calcium. Animals that we use as sources of milk are called milch animals. What are they called, children? Milch animals. Then we have eggs. We also consume eggs laid by some animals as food. Eggs are rich in nutrients such as proteins and vitamins. Got it? Honey. Have you seen honeybees buzzing around flowers? Bees collect the nectar from flowers and make honey from it. They store the honey in their hives. We collect honey from beehives. Honey is a rich source of carbohydrate such as sucrose, glucose, lactose, water, and minerals. Okay, now let's see what this do you know has for us. Bees use their long tongues like straws, that is proboscis, to suck nectar from flowers. They store the nectar in their honey stomachs. Oh my gosh, this is nice. I could say honey stomachs or bellies, honey bellies. Bees have two stomachs. What a great piece of information this is. They have a honey stomach which they use to carry nectar in. They have another stomach like everybody else which they use to digest their food. The honey stomach holds almost 70 milligrams of nectar, and when full it weighs almost as much as a bee does. Gosh, honey bees visit 100 and 1500 flowers to fill their honey stomachs. This is really, I can say, superb information, children, and I love honeybees. I think so you can make something about them. Okay, then let's see about this Dr. Verghese Kurian, 1921 to 2012. Dr. Verghese Kurian was born on 26 November 1921 at Kozhikode, Kerala. He is said to have been brought the White Revolution in India. He was a chairman of Gujarat Cooperative Milk Marketing Federation. The abbreviation for this is GCMMF, which manages the Amul food brand. It is said that he designed Operation Flood, the largest dairy development program in the world. Operation Flood helped make India the largest producer in the world. Now, how great that is, isn't it, children? And imagine an Indian making names for Operation Flood and making it also the largest milk producer in the world. Children, I want you to write something about him, stick his photograph and see all the details about him in your book and in your brain too. Okay, that's really great about Dr. Verghese Kurian. A superb information. Okay, now let's go to Indian food. Indian food. We are going to continue with the Indian food. My goodness me. Indian cuisine. Who doesn't love the Indian cuisine? Varies from the region to region, reflecting the different people who live in the subcontinent. Food is an important part of Indian culture, playing an important role in everyday life as well as in festivals. In many cases, food is deeply influenced by religious and social identity, with varying taboos and preferences. Generally, Indian cuisine can be divided into four categories, that is North Indian, South Indian, East Indian and West Indian. Despite this diversity, Indian food has some common features. Use of spices is an integral part of food preparation in India. Spices are used to enhance the flavor of a dish. Cuisine across India has been influenced by various cultural groups that came to India from countries of West Asia, Central Asia and Europe. The staples of Indian food are rice, wheat and a variety of pulses like masoor, which is red lentil, chana, that's Bengal gram, tuar, that is pigeon pea, and urad, that's black gram, and moog, that's green gram. Pulses are dehusked or split and cooked whole. Some of the pulses like chana and moong are also processed into flour, that's besan. Most Indian dishes are fried in vegetable oil. In North and West India, groundnut oil is traditionally more popular for frying, while in Eastern India, mustard oil is more commonly used. In South India, coconut oil and gingerly oil are used. Desi ghee, that's clarified butter, is also popular cooking medium. The most frequently used spices in Indian cuisine are chili pepper, black mustard seed, that's rye, cumin, that's jeera, turmeric, that's haldi, fenugreek, that's methi, asafoetida, that's hing, ginger, which is called adrak, and garlic, that's lasan. One of the popular spice mixes is garam masala, which is usually a powder of 5 or more dried spices. It commonly comprises of cardamom, cinnamon and clove. Some leaves that are commonly used in cooking are coriander leaf, fenugreek leaf and mint leaf. The use of curry leaves is typical of South Indian cuisine. In desserts, cardamom, nutmeg, saffron and rose essence are also used. Indian food is very popular all over the world, definitely. All of us are proud to be Indians, isn't it? My gosh, make a booklet, a mini booklet on Indian food, the spices, do something, just go for South Indian food and West Indian food and the North Indian food and the East Indian food. Do research. You will enjoy, let me tell you that. I am enjoying just reading about it. Just imagine making a mini booklet and just imagine preparing one day West Indian food, one day North Indian food, one day South Indian food and one day East Indian food. You can also call it North and South Indian tadka, East and West Indian tadka, isn't it? So enjoy, children, and do something about it. Prepare mini booklets and have fun. Now let's see, here we are coming to the end of this lovely lesson. Let's go to the points to remember. All living things need food to live, that's right. Plants and animals are our sources of food. Herbivorous. Herbivores eat only plants, carnivores eat flesh of other animals. Omnivores eat both plants and animals. Parasites depend on other living animals' food. Food is a substance we eat to get energy and nutrients. Living organisms can be grouped into producers, consumers and decomposers. Plants are producers, they can make their own food. Animals are consumers and depend on plants and other animals for nutrition. A few organisms derive nutrition from dead and decaying matter. Plant parts like roots, stems, leaves, fruits as well as seeds are the major sources of food. Animals like cows, buffaloes, goats and camels are sources of milk. They are called milch animals. Then we have animals like poultry, birds, fishes, goats and sheep provide meat. We also get food products like eggs and honey from animals. Now let's see some important definitions. Herbivore, an animal that eats plants only. Carnivore, an animal that eats flesh of other animals. Omnivore, an animal that eats both plants and animals. Producer, a green plant that produces its own food by photosynthesis. Consumer, living things which derive nutrition from others. Decomposer or saprophyte, living things which derive nutrients from dead and decaying matter. Parasites, plants or animals that live on or inside other plants or animals in order to get food. They also harm the organism. So children, it was a beautiful lesson, isn't it? Food, where does it come from, was a wonderful lesson, and we learned a lot of important definitions, and I guess we enjoyed the lesson thoroughly, isn't it? So have a fantastic day. Go and surf the net, prepare your mini booklets and have fun, and don't forget to eat the cuisines of North India, South India, West India and East India. See you for today.